Hello, folks. Oh, that was a bit loud. I do apologize. Here we go. Hello, folks. Wilful Ninja here, bringing you another nerdy video. I know last Friday during the live broadcast of the Lunar Guard Adventures that I said I was going to do Paladin next, along with some of the other classes that I missed from Xanatar's Guide. Now, things have changed over the weekend, obviously, because those videos did not go up. I'm afraid that I got rather busy on the Saturday, and then I got extremely busy on the Sunday. And on Sunday, I discovered that one of my fellow Little Sport members is interested in trying out D&D, and he was interested in playing a particular class. He wanted to play like a swordsman, but he wanted magic. So, of course, playing one myself, I had to recommend the warlock. Sorry guys, as you all know, I have a hypersensitive mic, and I'm downstairs in my kitchen. So therefore, like, there's a bit of an echo, and I don't know why, but whenever I'm downstairs, things seem louder. I don't know why, but okay. But anyway, so instead of doing the Paladin, we are actually going to do the Warlock. Now, if there's enough time today, I'm busy all day. Like, this is one of the few moments I have free. If I have time, I might cover the Paladin, because he also falls under that description of, you know, sort of warrior magic. Now, I did explain to my friend that there's a fighter Eldritch Knight who has magic, but he basically said he wants more magic, less, like, in terms of the ratio, like, an Eldritch Knight is more of a fighter than a spell slinger, and he wants more he wants more magic than there is combat. So yeah, so this is what I'm doing. So I decided, okay, with that information, I'm going to do the Warlock. I recommended to him this Blade Singer for Wizards, but he was that was a bit too much magic, he said, so we're going to go with the Warlock. And that is what we're doing today. Now, folks, this Warlock video is a little bit awkward. A part of me wants to break it down into several different parts, with each different pact, just because the Warlock is unique in the sense that whereas most classes have one archetype, a Warlock sort of has two archetypes. Like, you have your patron, which is one archetype, and again, they do give you distinct abilities, but then you get another choice late at level 3. Now, your choice at level 3, to my knowledge, is not much. So, yeah. Now these are called pact boons. So they don't really expand too much on that. It's just an added little feature that gives you more customization of your character. So yeah, they don't actually. Yeah, there's mainly only one archetype, but then depending on how you want to go with that archetype, is then what defines your pact boon. There's 3 pacts. There's Pact of the Chain, Pact of the Blade, and Pact of the Tome. Pact of the Tome encourages you to be a bit more of a spell slinger. Pact of the Chain gives you a more enhanced familiar, which allows you to have, like, a pet that will fight with you. It will not get stronger. It's not like the Ranger, where it will get stronger as you level up. And then there's Pact of the Blade, which encourages you to use a weapon. So again, it encourages like a couple of different play styles. The packs do, but what really defines your character is your patron. Now, there's several patrons. Let's see, Archfey. There's Archfey, Fiend, and Archfey, Fiend, Old One, and then in Xanatar's Guide, there's hold on to get to the section of the book. Life events. Oh wait, no, that's that. Yeah, there you go. There's Wizard. Here's Warlock. And then the Warlock. There's two. There's Celestial, and then there's the Hexblade. So there's 5 in total patrons. So I'm thinking. Now the problem is this, like the cleric. Sorry, actually, strangely, unlike the cleric, I don't think there's many otherworld. There's not many general. How should I put it? Pacts. Sorry, there's very few general cleric. Sorry, warlock things. Actually, never mind. I'll do this video. This is the first video, and it will be about everything that the warlock gets. Now, it's not going to be as long because there's not much to go over. And then the longer video is also going to be about the patrons. Now, your patrons do modify a fair number of the stuff for your warlock, but we'll get into them at a later point. Also, I might do either a separate video or at the end of this video or the end of the second video to go over something called Eldritch Invocations, which is a really cool feature of this class. So let's start off with again, guys, some of the lore. A fair bit of warning before we get into it. Now, hopefully, my feelings on warlocks will be a bit explained through what I'm about to read. Now, again, for me, warlocks, they sometimes they're not always aware of their patron or who their patron is, possibly, or they might have accidentally made the pact. But eventually but their patron knows. That's the situation. That's how I see it. The patron knows of that of this pact, and eventually they will come to collect. So basically, if you're having this, if at some point your patron contacts you, or again if you start off knowing your patron, then I expect me as a DM, I expect some level of role playing on your behalf. So if your patron contacts you or you seek out to talk to your patron, I expect role playing, and I expect you not to go completely against your patron, sort of like a cleric or a druid. I don't expect you to be like, hey, fuck you, and then walk the other way and expect to get away with it. I do not expect that, and I hope my players don't expect that as well. For example, my character, he has no problem killing people, but he does have a problem with just random killings. Like, as you well know, Loyal has never been above killing enemies, which again led to uneasy discussions with. Sorry, folks, I'm actually moving around. Sorry, you will hear my cable. Which actually led them to have uneasy conversations with an old member of the group, Wong. Wong had issues with Loyal because when it came down to the bandits, Loyal did not care. He did not care for the idea of redemption for them, or anything like that. The way he saw it was, hey, these guys tried to kill us. I'm going to kill them. You know? And if the easiest solution to their task was death, or to kill their opponent, he was going to take it. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why the goddess chose someone with that type of attitude, because she knew that Loyal would complete the job regardless. But again, Loyal is against senseless murder. He actually is against it, but his patron isn't. Loyal's patron is as a Hexblade warlock, which I'll get into hopefully today, is a magical weapon. It is a magical weapon. Now these Hexblades are not always the same. Evidence of this is how Matt Mercer's doing Ford's Travis's Hexblade Warlock. Travis and Matt are going for more of an aquatic mystery type thing. I have my own suspicions of what his patron is, but they're drifting away from what the book says. That's okay. I'm not ragging on Matt, but I find it interesting and I'm enjoying it all the same. I'm going more what the book says. So my patron is a sword. It is of an evil alignment, and it, like, in order for me to communicate with him, I have to do some drastic things. And in order for those of you that might remember, I blessed a character in the group to be able to see in the dark. Now that required me to do something very drastic. I rolled off screen, and what it was, I told my players afterwards what I rolled for, but yeah, I did it off screen, and like basically my patron asked me, okay, I'll allow you to give this power to someone else, but you have to kill someone for me. That's the type of patron my character is. My character does not like the fact that, like, just some random guy had to be killed, but he was like, okay, for the betterment of the group, I'll fucking do it. But yeah, so again, I have a friend who's playing a Fiend Warlock. My friend Dale, who plays a Fiend Warlock in nearly all our games. He's playing one in Friday's game, and he's playing one in my Monday game. His patron is the Spatter. Now, he may not agree with the idea. He does not like the idea of making a deal with a devil, but he will condone the devil won't push his limits. For example, his character is not evil, so the devil knows this. The devil is smart, so the devil won't just blatantly ask him, "Oh, kill this person for me." He will push him. So when he asks, like, "Oh, kill a bunch of these humans," he was like, "Why? What have they done?" He then just go to, "Oh, they're cultists of this other demon." Okay, fine. I'll kill them. So yeah, the devil. So again, I expect some role playing, folks. If I ever host like a one-off D&D game for fans of mine, then if you do play a warlock, be warned. I do expect some level of role playing and forethought of your patron. Don't just pick a fiend patron and not expect them to them to let you get away with going completely against them. Don't just pick them because, oh, this gives me cool abilities. Yeah, no. I will crack the whip hard. I'll give you a warning. Don't get me wrong. I will give a warning first. A verbal warning. I'll be like, okay, I'll pull you aside after the game, and I'll be like, okay, look, you're doing some things that may upset your patron, and if you're not too careful, there may be a consequence. So yeah, I would give a warning, and then if they continue doing it, then yeah, I'm not an asshole. But anyway, let's get straight into it. I explained my own thoughts on warlocks enough, and hopefully this next section will explain my thoughts. Now, first we're going into the description of some warlocks, as per usual with these classes. With a pseudo-dragon curled on his shoulder, a young elf in golden robes smiles warmly, weaving a magical charm into his honeyed words, and bending the palace sentinel to his will. As flames spring to life in her hands, a wizened human whispers the secret name of her demonic patron, infusing her spell with fiendish magic. Shifting his gaze between the battered tome and the odd alignment of the stars overhead, a wide-eyed tiefling chants the mystic ritual that will open a doorway to a distant world. Warlocks are seekers of knowledge that lies hidden in the fabric of the multiverse, through pacts made with mysterious beings of supernatural power. Warlocks unlock magical effects, both subtle and spectacular, drawn on the ancient knowledge of such beings such as fey nobles, demons, devils, hags, and alien entities of the far realm. Warlocks piece together arcane secrets to bolster their own power. Alright, there we go. That is a general description. Now, there's about 2 more lore sections. Yeah. Titled Sworn and Beholden and Delvers into Secrets. A warlock is defined by a pact with an otherworldly being. Sometimes the relationship between a warlock and a patron is like that of a cleric and a deity, though the beings that serve as patrons for warlocks are not gods. A warlock might lead a cult dedicated to a demon prince, or an archdevil, or an earthly alien entity. Beings not typically served by clerics. More often, though, the arrangement is similar to that between a master and an apprentice. The warlock learns and grows in power at the cost of the occasional services performed on the patron's behalf. The magic bestowed upon a warlock ranges from minor but lasting alterations to the warlock's being, such as the ability to see in the darkness or read any language, to access powerful spells. Unlike bookish wizards, warlocks supplement their magic with some faculty at hand-to-hand combat. They are comfortable in light armor and know how to use simple weapons. There we go, folks. That is one of the key distinctions. For me, one of the most combat-ready class... the most combat-ready class in the spell slingers, to me, is... in terms of the arcane spell slingers, I should say, is the warlock. Now, when it comes to divine magic, we have the tree, and those 3 are actually very good, despite being 2 of them being like spell slingers, the cleric and the druid. They're pretty good, except with a druid, they have to sort of rely on going with Pact of the... Sorry, not Pact. They have to go with Circle of the Moon to get shapeshifting. They're more reliant on that. And whereas clerics are, they're spell slingers, but they're good in melee as well. And paladins, I believe, are a third caster or a half caster. I can't remember which one. But warlocks, in terms of the arcane casters, now the arcane casters are much less inclined to combat. Now, I know friends who say the most combat-focused spellslinger would be sorcerer. I disagree, but I think it's the warlock because they're good both with just spell slinging and swordsmanship. Sorry, not swordsmanship, and melee combat. So yeah. Alright. Warlocks are driven by an insatiable need for knowledge and power, which compels them into their packs and shapes their lives. Their thirst drives warlocks into their packs and shapes their later careers as well. Stories of warlocks binding themselves to fiends are widely known, but many warlocks serve patrons that are not fiendish. Sometimes a traveller in the wilds comes to a strangely beautiful tower, meets its Feylord or lady, and stumbles into a pact without being fully aware of it. and sometimes while poring over tomes of forbidden lore, a brilliant but crazy student's mind is open to the realities beyond the material world and to the alien beings that dwell in the outer void. Once a pact is made, a warlock's thirst for knowledge and power can't be slacked with mere study and research. No one makes a pact with such a mighty patron if he or she doesn't intend to use its power thus gained. Rather, the vast majority of warlocks spend their days in active pursuit of their goals, which typically means some kind of adventuring. Furthermore, the demands of their patrons drive warlocks towards adventure. So there you go, folks. Now often, this is further example of what I said. A warlock may not be aware that they made a pact with someone, but the entity that they made a pact with is aware of them. And it's this pact specific, precisely I'll use it. I'm not the best with words. And it's this pact precisely is how the warlock gets their power. So again, it's very similar to a cleric. And again, there's even a section that even just related clerics to warlocks, except where a cleric would only serve a deity, warlocks would serve pretty much any strong being that will give them their power. Now, when you're making your warlock character, the book recommend that you spend time thinking about your patron and the obligations that your pact imposed on you, and also what led you to make the pact. How did you make the contract with your patron? Were you seduced into summoning a devil, or did you seek out a ritual that would allow you to make contact with an alien elder god? Did you search for your patron, or did your patron find and choose you? Do you chafe under the obligations of your pact, or serve joyfully in anticipation of the rewards promised to you? Work with your DM, and again, the book recommends work with your DM to determine how big a part your pact will play in your character's adventuring career. Your patron's demands might drive you into adventures, or they might consist entirely of small favors that you do between adventures. What kind of relationship do you have with your patron? Is it friendly, antagonistic, uneasy, or romantic? Yes, you can be romantic with your patron. How important does your patron consider you to be? And what part do you play in your patron's plan? Do you know other servants of your patron? How does your patron communicate with you? If you have a familiar, it might occasionally speak with your patron's voice. Some warlock find messages from their patrons etched on trees, mingled among tea leaves, or adrift in the clouds, messages that only the warlock can see. Other warlocks converse with their patrons in dreams or waking visions, or deal only with intermediaries. So there you go, folks. Again, the book, I like how this book really further pushes the concept of plan. Now, I have no idea how much Travis planned. I have no idea if I feel like Travis has some idea about his patron, or he wants nothing to know about his patron, or about any type of relationship he has with his patron, and he's letting Matt slowly release that information. Spoiler alert for Critical Role Season 2, for Campaign 2, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. My theory, Travis got a vision. His character was not aware he made this pact. He picked up a sword that he found on the beach after being shipwrecked, and all of a sudden, ever since he picked up the sword, he has had magic. And just recently, I think it was 2 episodes, it was either the previous episode 2 weeks ago, or it was the episode from week just gone, he had a vision of it from his patron, and he was in an ocean, and there was this big bulbous eye. I personally suspect that it's a kraken, a very powerful, very intelligent kraken. And we got an intelligent... Holy shit, I just realized something. They never killed that kraken from Campaign 1, and that kraken is supposed to be extremely old, and it was highly intelligent. It actually even said to Vox Machina as they were escaping through the portal, that it will get them. Oh wow! I need to share this theory with some of my friends that watch Critical Role. But anyway, Travis knows nothing of this. He knows about he had the vision, and he knows he has a connection to some greater being, but that's it. That's all he knows. His character knows. Sorry, but given his reactions, I feel like he said, "I'm going to play a Hexblade Warlock, and I do not know who my patron is or how I made the pact." There you go. And I find that great. I personally find that very hilarious. Again, generally the Hexblade Warlock is you're made a pact with a sentient weapon, but I like how Matt is taking it. Like he describes Travis's abilities very with a lot of water. So again, folks, plan ahead. Again, I had no idea how much Travis knew, but I think he had some planning. He was involved in some of the planning. So again, talk to your DM. Find it. Tell your DM what type of situation you want with your patron. Now, I find one of the bits hilarious, like romantic. Like, are you like that can be with anything, even an old one, I believe. But again, an old one, your DM has to be a bit creative. With Fae and a devil or a demon, it's sort of easy. Now, the quick build of a warlock is very simple. Your highest stat should be charisma followed by constitution. Now, this is to help you deal with combat, because again, a warlock is very much an adventurer. Like they're as the book described, they're either going on adventures because of their patron, or they're being very active in their pursuits. So you need to have a good number of health, a fair bit of health. Also, yeah, it recommends you choose the charlatan background, and last but not least, choose the Eldritch, Blast, and Chill Touch cantrips, along with the first level spell Ray of Sickness and Witch Bolt. Now again, these are the recommendations. This is for if you want to play a game really quick. Like if the DM had to cancel the main game, and he was like, "Okay, guys, I'll quickly run this through a one shot," and then boom, everyone had to make a quick character win in less than an hour or 30 minutes. So there you go, boom, character made and ready. So yeah. Now, your class. We're going to talk about. Let's get back up to the table. Now again, obviously, if you guys are looking through, I hope you guys have your own player handbook and you are looking at this table as I say it. Now again, I'm not going to talk about your proficiency bonus, and I'm not going to talk about the features because we'll get into them later on. So, cantrips. Now, folks, in terms of spell casting, you're not going to be doing a lot. Funny enough. Now, actually, no, you can actually do as much as a wizard, because, interestingly enough, where all other casters get their magic back at a long rest, the warlock gets their magic back during a short rest. So if your DM says, if you're walking for an hour, or sitting down, or eating something for an hour, or whatever amount of time, if you're playing a warlock, whenever there is no combat and it seems to be lots of role playing, ask your DM, especially if you're in a dungeon, if there's a lot of walking or looking for shit, ask your DM, hey, can I take this as a long rest, because that will recharge your magic. And here's why. We're actually going to skip cantrips and spells known and go straight into spell slots, okay? We're going straight into that. Now, warlocks get very little spell slots. Now remember, spell slots are what you use to cast your really powerful magic. Warlocks have powerful magic, but it's not where they shine. At first level, you have only one spell slot. That's right, folks, only one. So you get 2 spells, but only one. You can only cast one of those spells every short rest. So you have to be very careful. Now again, as I said, warlocks don't shine with their spells. They shine with their cantrips. So, second level, you get 2 spell slots, and then that is your maximum until you reach level 11. Once you reach level 11, you get your 3rd spell slot, and then you get your 4th spell slot at level 17, and then that's it. That's right, folks. At max 14. I'm actually going to put this in a bit of perspective. We're going to compare it to... now, Warlock is considered a spellcaster. Do not mistake that. It is described as a spellcaster. Let's compare it to another spellcaster, the Wizard. Okay? Now, let's compare them at level 20, just to be fair. And so that I'm not giving too much away from my Wizards video. Now, at level 20, a Warlock has a spell slots at 4, and they have and their spell level is 5th. That's the maximum spell level. As we know from previous videos, the maximum spell level in all categories is 9. Warlocks stop just above, just about above halfway to 10. So, a Wizard, their first level spell slots is 4. Yeah, their first level spell slots is 4. Their second, they then have 3 second, 3 third, 3 fourth, 3 fifth, 2 sixth, 2 seventh, and then 1 8th and 1 9th. So yeah, folks, more than double, or I think even in some cases, triple than what the Warlock has. Let me see, is that triple? Yeah, more than triple the Warlock spell slots. And again, they can go to 9th. They can go beyond 5th. Now again, there is a feature that does allow a Warlock to get some, I think, 7th level spell slots, but it's very little. But we'll get to that later. Now, your spells known. You start off with 2 spells, as I said, and you get 1 new spell every level until you reach level 9. At level 9, you will have your 10th level spell. Sorry, your 10th spell, and then you don't get a new one until level 11. So at level 11, then it breaks off seemingly into 2-2. So from level 1 to 9, you get 1 new spell slot every time. Sorry, 1 new spell each time you level up. Now, you can replace existing spells, folks. Okay? You can replace existing spells. So say for example, you take the quick build, but then your DM's like, okay, this one shot is actually getting interesting. Do you guys want to turn it into a full-fledged campaign? And your players say yeah. And you don't want a Ray of Sickness or Chill Touch. You can replace Ray of Sickness or Witch Bolt. You can replace them when you reach level 2. But then once you reach level 9, it's then every second level do you get a new spell. So from 9 and 10 have only 10 spells. At level 11 to 12 you get 1 additional spell, and then from 13 the 14th then another one, and then on the 15th and 16th you get your 13th. And then it follows that sort of pattern until you reach level 19 to 20, and that's it, no more spells. Your maximum spell number is 15. So by level 19, know what spells you want to have. So when it comes to these casters, I'm not a big fan of too much pre-planning. I do expect some level of planning, so that way we don't have to be bogged down too much with leveling up. But basically, when it comes to these casters, I don't want to hear my players say, when they reach their maximum number of spells, like for a sorcerer, a bard, or a warlock, or a druid, I believe. Actually, no, druids can swap out spells anytime they want. But yeah, for characters that can't, when they reach their maximum number of spells, I don't want to hear later down the line, oh, I don't want this spell anymore, I want a new spell. I don't want to hear it. So I expect you to have some sort of planning. Like each time when you take that final level up, I want you to know exactly what spells you want. Now again, you could wait until that level. You could pick any type of spell you want, and then, but again, when it comes to that final level up into your final, spell selection, like when you reach from level 19 to 20, at that point, at that exact moment, I want you to know exactly what spells you want, and then that's it. Now, warlocks are also very interesting in terms of casting. In terms of the casters, they remember how I described with the wizard. They have multiple level spell slots, and I haven't described that yet for the warlock. That is because the warlock always casts. Anytime they cast a spell, it's at their highest level. So basically, a level 20 warlock, when they spend one of their spell slots, that spell slot is always, and I mean always, a 5th level spell slot. He cannot cast a spell at 1st level or whatever. When he's level 20, it's always 5th. Now again, that's handy at times. Warlocks don't have to worry about too much of spell slot management, where wizards have to be. Since I play a wizard, I know that it's very annoying. Okay. How many spell slots do I have left? Okay, 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 I have that many. Blah, 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 blah. Warlock, I have 3 spell slots left. That's it. That's all they have to worry about. That's it. They literally do not have to worry about management. Especially, as I said, since they get their spells back, their spell slots back at a short rest instead of a long rest. Now, from every 2 levels, I believe, is that the case? Yes, it is. Every 2 levels, you get your spell level goes up. So, from 1 to 2, it's 1st, and then at 3rd level you get 2nd. 4th level, it's still 2nd. This pattern keeps up until you reach level 9. At level 9, that's when you get your 5th level spell slot. You reach 5th level spell slots, and then that's it. It does not get any higher from the rest of the way. So very early on, a warlock reaches their maximum spell slot level. The same goes for their cantrips. Now, cantrips, folks, is where warlock really shines. Wizards and sorcerers and other characters, yeah, they all have cantrips, you know. And cantrips are good. They level up with your character. Certain increments. But a warlock, particularly with Eldritch Blast, warlocks eventually get to that point where warlocks have a lot of abilities that augment their cantrips or enhance them. So it's really interesting. You start off with 2 cantrips, and then at level 4 you get a 3rd cantrip, and then at level 10 you get your 4th cantrip, and then that's it. From level 10 to 20, you're at your maximum known cantrips. Now again, it does not seem like a lot, but trust me, with the augments that they can do with their cantrips, it is ridiculous. Just in case I don't go into it, I'm going to go into it now. There's abilities called invocations that warlocks get. These are special abilities that augment the warlock. As I said, it further customizes the warlock. These are special gifts that your warlock was given by your patron. For example, there's an invocation called Devil's Sight, which gives your character dark vision, or if you already had dark vision, it pushes your range further. And I believe you can see in magical darkness as well, which is much better than dark vision. And eventually there's one called Witch's Sight, which means your character can see through illusion magic. Then there's some invocations that allow you to cast certain spells at will, as in they don't spend a spell slot. So we'll get into the invocation more in depth later down the road, but we're going to go about your invocations now. There is a maximum number, and you can swap them out, like with spells. You get your first 2 invocations at 2nd level, and then at 5th level you get a 3rd invocation, and then at 7th level you get a 4th, 9th level you get a 5th, then 12th level you get a 6th, and then at level 15 you get a 17th, and then at 18th you get your 8th and final invocation. Now again, they're still level 18, 19, and 20. So even after you reach 18th, you can still swap out invocations at level 19 and 20. But again, like with spells known and cantrips known, when you're going from level 19 to 20, I expect my players to have an idea of what invocations they want. But now all that out of the way, let's actually get down into the features, folks. Now, your hit points is a little high compared to other casters. With other casters, it's generally a d6. With warlocks, it's a d8 per warlock level. Your hit points at 1st level is A plus your constitution modifier. And then your hit points at higher levels is 1d8 plus your constitution modifier, or 5 plus your constitution modifier. Again, it depends on if you're a gambling man or woman. Now, your proficiencies. Again, this is where warlocks, once again, will stand out a bit. They get light armor, and they get all simple weapons. You get no tool proficiencies, and your saving throws are wisdom and charisma. You get to choose 2 skills from the following: Arcana, Deception, History, Intimidation, Investigation, Nature, and Religion. It's generally recommended, depending on your patron, pick an invocation that matches them. Is your patron do you worship your patron as a god? Then pick religion, I suppose. Again, and if you're picking Fae, you might want to pick nature. But again, we'll get into that when we talk about your patrons. Your starting equipment is a light crossbow and 20 bolts, or any simple weapon. You could also pick a component pouch or an arcane focus, as well as a scholar's pack or a dungeoneer's pack. Now again, think about your character's backstory before you pick your starting equipment, and then pick the starting equipment that best suits that character. Now, every warlock does start off with the following: leather armor, any simple weapon, and 2 daggers. So you automatically get 2 daggers and leather armor. So that's already, you get 3 weapons automatically and leather armor. So you could take either another simple weapon or a light crossbow for range. Now, from level 1, you have your otherworldly patron. Now, there's 5. There's the Fiend. Sorry, let's do it. Let's try it, or we'll do it in the way the book says. There's the Archfey, the Fiend, and the Great Old One. Now, they're detailed in the player's handbook, and you get features from your choice at level 1, 6, 10, and 14th. There's also 2 others that were added in Xanatar's Guide, which is the Hexblade Warlock, which is what I play in the Friday broadcasts, and then there's also Celestial, which I rule that your magic is no longer arcane. If you're a Celestial Warlock, I rule that your magic is divine based, similar to that of a Cleric, Paladin, and Druid. You have Pact Magic, which is different than spellcasting. So, yeah, they actually specifically have a different name and different rules, which is very interesting. We've already talked about the spell slots and spells of first level unknown. Your spellcasting ability is Charisma. So your spell attack modifier is your proficiency plus Charisma. And your spell save DC is 8 plus your proficiency in Charisma. I may have not gone over DC. A spell save DC means how difficult it is to resist your magic. So, like, the higher your charisma and the higher proficiency bonus, the more likely an enemy will be hurt by your spells or be affected by your spells. You can use an arcane focus as a spellcasting focus for your warlock spells. Now, there's eldritch invocations. We've already talked about them. Now, at level 3, you have your Pact boon. Now, these are gifts that were bestowed upon you. It may have been a familiar, or it may have been a weapon, or it may have been a book. Now, let's go into them. Pact of the Chain. You automatically learn the Find Familiar spell, and you can cast it as a ritual. The spell does not count does not count against the number of spells known, so it's a free spell. When you cast a spell, you can choose one of the normal forms of your familiar or one of the following special forms. So again, yeah, your special forms are expanded upon for your familiar. There's Imp, Pseudo-Dragon, Quasit, Sprite. You can forgo one of your own attack. Additionally, when you take an attack action, you can forgo one of your own attacks to allow your familiar to make one attack of its own. There's very few cases where I'll see this coming into play. I'm not sure. Maybe there is situations where you would want your familiar to attack over you. Sorry. I remember you have to take the attack action. So, which means you can't cast your spells. So that's why I'm a bit like, huh. Again, it depends on what type of warlock you're going for. There are a lot of cases where people try to abuse the Pact of Chain. I know one of my players, now I have not seen this on stage advice yet, but basically if he was to go Pact of, no, he doesn't do it because I said, no, that is too powerful, and I, said no. Basically, what he always wanted to do was pick Pact of the Chain, pick an imp as his familiar form, and then have the imp go invisible because it's an imp. It can use its imp abilities. Have the imp go invisible, and then always give him the help action. So that way, and have the imp sit on his head. So that way, he will always get advantage when he attacks or does anything. I was like, what? No. So yeah. Again, there are rules in the familiar spell that could give leeway to that, but a part of me is just like, no, I doubt it works that way. Now again, I might have to look up sage advice to overrule that, but to me, I was just like, no. Again, my friend at the time was more of one of those power gamers. Like he builds characters to win. So yeah. The next Pact boon is Pact of the Blade. You can use your action to create a Pact weapon in your empty hand. You can choose the form that this melee weapon takes each time you create it. You are proficient with it while you wield it, and this weapon counts as magical for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage. Now, I do not say that will. We'll get into that at some point later down the road when it comes to certain magical weapons. Your packed weapon disappears if it is more than 5 feet away from you for 1 minute or more. It also disappears if you use this feature again. If you dismiss the weapon, no action is required, or if you die. You can transform one magic weapon into your packed weapon by performing a special ritual while you hold on to that weapon. You perform the ritual over the course of 1 hour, which can be done during a short rest. And you can then dismiss the weapon, shunting it into an extra dimensional space. and it appears whenever you create your pact weapon thereafter. You can't affect an artifact or a sentient weapon in this way. If you perform the 1 hour ritual on a different weapon, or if you use a 1 hour ritual to break your bond to it, the weapon appears at your feet if it is in the extra dimensional space, and that when the bond breaks. Now, the overcoming resistances and such. I do not rule that it would, like, if you're. I believe that is purely for the case of when it comes to like werewolves. Werewolves are resistant to non-silvered, non-magical weapons, melee weapons. Weapon attacks. But so basically, even if you have like a +1 longsword of fire that deals not only the sword damage but then an extra fire damage, and you use it against a fiend, someone who's resistant to fire. That does not the fiend's resistance to fire is not negated. I believe, again, this is my belief. I believe that the fire resistance is not negated by your pact weapon's ability. I believe that is the only thing that eliminates is your ability, like creature's resistance to what's it called, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. The last of these pacts is the tome. Your patron gives you a grimoire called the Book of Shadows. When you gain this feature, choose 3 cantrips from any class spell list. While the book is on your person, you can cast those cantrips at will. They don't count towards your number of cantrips known. If you lose your Book of Shadows, you can perform a 1 hour ceremony to receive a replacement from your patron. This ceremony can be performed during a short or long rest, and it destroys the previous book. The book turns to ash when you die. Now, the Pacted Tome does favour more of a spellcaster. So could the Pact of the Chain. Now, there is a sidebar, as you can see, about your Pact Boon that sort of talks about how to roleplay the description of your item with your patron. For example, with the Pact of Chain, your familiar is more cunning than a typical familiar. Its default form can be a reflection of your patron, with sprites and pseudo-dragons tied to the Archfey, imps and quasites tied to the Fiend. Because the Great Old One's nature is inscrutable, any familiar form is suitable for it. The Pact of Blade. If your patron is Archfey, your weapon might be slender blade wrapped in leafy vines. If you serve the Fiend, your weapon could be an axe made of black metal and adorned with decorative flames. If your patron is a Great Old One, your weapon might be an ancient-looking spear with a gemstone embedded in its head, carved to look like a terrible blinking eye. And in the Pacted Tome, your Book of Shadows might be a fine gilt-edged tome with spells of enchantment and illusion, gifted to you by the lordly Archfey. It could be a weighty tome bound in demon hide, studded with iron, holding spells of conjuration and a wealth of forbidden lore about the sinister regions of the cosmos, a gift of the Fiend. Or it could be the tattered diary of a lunatic driven mad by contact with the Great Old One, holding scraps of spells that only your own begrudging insanity allows you to understand and cast. A lot of people compare the Great Old One to like the beings such as like Cthulhu and all that. So yeah. As per usual, at level 4, 8, 12th and 16th and lastly 19th, you have your ASI. Level 11, you have Mystic Arcanum. Now this is what allows you to cast spells above 5th. At level 11, your patron bestows upon you the magical secret called the Arcanum. Choose one 6th level spell from the Warlock spell list as an Arcanum spell. You can cast your Arcanum spell once without expending a spell slot. You must finish a long rest before you do so again. So there you go, folks. You get one 6th level spell that you can cast once per day. At higher levels, you gain more warlock spells of your choice that can be cast in this way. One at 7th, one at 13th, one at 8th, one at 15th, and one 7th level spell slot. 7th level spell at 13th level, one 8th level spell at 15th, and one 9th level spell at level 17. You regain all your uses of your Mystic Arcanum when you finish a long rest. So yeah, folks, your Mystic Arcanum spells are basically your doomsday spells. Like, if the party was going up against a being that was very powerful, that's when you would use them. Or if you knew that you were going to go into a long rest later and you wanted to finish the fight quick. Your last feature of this video that we'll be going into before we talk about your patrons is Eldritch Master. At 20th level, you can draw on your inner reserve of mystical power when entreating your patron to regain expended spell slots. You can spend 1 minute entreating your patron for aid to regain all your expended spell slots from your Pact Magic feature. Once you regain spell slots with this feature, you must finish a long rest before you can do so again. So basically, that is you taking a minute. Like, say you used up all your spells, but you knew you can't finish a long rest. So you couldn't finish a short rest. That's you basically reaching out to the cosmos, trying to communicate with your patron and be like, hey, I'm in a very desperate situation. I really need I really need my magic back. Please grant me more power. And then your patron, again, obviously your patron will do this for you if you've been following, in my opinion, my personal rules for playing a warlock. If you've been a dick to your patron, I will probably have that be rejected. Again, it depends on if the player has been aware. Again, whenever a person is joining my games, I let them know my rules for clerics, paladins, druids, and warlocks. I don't get me wrong, folks. I give my players a warning from the moment they start to play that this is how I'm ruling these classes with their magic. So be careful. So yeah, again, I'm not a person who's just going to pull the rug right out from under them. I give them, as I said earlier, I give them a warning. I will give them subtle role-playing hints that something's gone wrong, similar to how Matt had Pike's necklace with her holy symbol start to crack and be damaged. Yeah, like those type of subtle hints. Like, and again, funny enough, there actually were rules about this in previous editions. You know, like upsetting your source of your magic, like, you know. Now again, I have players who I don't get me wrong, I do have players and fellow DMs who disagree with me when it comes to the warlock. They believe, like, yeah, once the pact is made, the patron can't do anything. You know, I disagree, but again, every DM may rule it differently at their own table. I'm just talking from my table, you know. Hell, in the Sage Advice just recently, that one of the golden rules is if you don't agree with a ruling, change it. If you don't agree with a rule or a mechanic, change it. Like, so one of the Sage Advice was basically saying, if you don't agree with something that's in the player handbook or in the Dungeon Master's Guide or even in the Monster Manual, change it. Or make up your own, like, you know? So, yeah. Alright, folks, that is it for part 1 of my video. Part 2 is going to be about the Patrons, the Archfey, the Fiend, the Old One, the Hexblade, and the Celestial. I will not be covering any other one. I will not be covering the Undying. I will not be covering the Light Warlock. So yeah, I will not be covering those. I'll be only covering the ones that were officially released in books. And that includes PDFs from the Dungeon Masters Guild. So, yeah. Hopefully I'll see you back here for part 2. May the force be with you, and remember, roll for initiative.